So here's the garden we have out back in Copperas Cove. There's 4 tomato plants here, and in between there's some carrots growing. And all 3 of these tomato plants are putting off, or 3 out of the 4 are putting off fruit. You can see there's some tomatoes growing here. It's a bit dark. Oh, there you can see better. A couple there. Only this biggest one here is the one that's not putting off any fruit. And then there's 3 pepper plants. This one's got some serrano peppers growing, and these are 2 bell pepper plants. And then in between there's some lettuce, and it probably has to come out sooner. It's going to start tasting bitter. It's pretty big. And then here we have some zinnias, and then here's a strawberry plant, but it's not doing too well. It hasn't grown much for quite a while, and the leaves are not very dark in color. And there's some carrots in here, which I transplanted from the other one because it was pretty crowded, but they're not doing so well in these other beds. And here's a squash plant, and here's some other zinnias around it. These are purple zinnias. They're pretty close together, so I think I have to transplant some of them before their roots start getting crowded. They're supposed to be at least like a foot apart, but they're only about 6 inches apart here. And then back here, there's the compost bins. This compost here is about 2 years old, and it's looking pretty good. We put a lot of this in those raised beds where all the plants are growing. And then this compost is about 1 year old, and it's all right. It's doing pretty good. And then this is all the fresh grass and vegetable trimmings from the house. And this bin, I fill up almost completely every time I mow the lawn, and it only takes about a week for it to go down in half of its original volume. And it only takes a week for the grass to start turning into this really dark brownish green color. And it really smells like manure, so I think the microbes are growing really well in this, and it's going to produce really good fertile soil later on. It really smells like manure. It's great. So that's about it. We put some, there's worms growing in these 2 bins. I even found a worm in here, surprisingly, even though it's filled with grass. And we covered this up with these doors. Hang on. Like this, to try and hold the moisture in and keep the sunlight out so that it'll attract worms so they can break down the compost. And this one we cover with newspaper and try and keep it wet. And even this grass bin, I cover it with a door to try and trap the heat in from all that like nitrogen gas or whatever from the grass as it decays, and it gets really hot under there, and it really decays really fast. So that's the compost, and that's the gardens we got going here in Copperas Cove. Oh, there's one other thing I forgot to show. My Aunt Jane gave my dad some of these dwarf peach trees, and they're doing pretty good, I guess. I don't really know, but there's one here and there's one here. So here's where we're collecting rainwater from the roof. There's no gutters, but it falls right off the edge of the roof there, and we get plenty of natural rainwater to water the garden with. There's another bin there filled with water. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hare Krishna.